Roger, go for deploy.
Alrighty, guys. So today, what we've got for you, we've got a conversation with Khan Porter. Not really going to call this anything. It's more so just a chat about Khan and his life and his thoughts on the world, really. It's a two-part show. It ended up, we got a bit of a theme with the way that we do our podcast and our questioning. I suppose you guys have probably noticed it's a lot towards, sometimes gets a little bit towards mindset. And I think that's where this conversation definitely went. And it was really interesting to hear from one of the top athletes in the world in his chosen field, just the day-to-day stuff that goes through his head, the insecurities, the worries, the anxieties, you know.
The bipolar?
The bipolar, yeah. He's actually talks about the fact that he's bipolar. So, yeah, it was a really interesting chat, and I think you guys will get to know Khan Porter a lot better after this, and probably me and Tommy a little bit too. It gets a little bit wild. We talk about coke and hookers and stupid stuff,
porn and shit.
Yeah, it gets a little wild, and a little silly, but it's a pretty good conversation. So, yeah. So the sponsors for today are Audible. So if you want to get into listening to audiobooks, guys, and get into an audible way of learning rather than what's it called when you read?
Reading way of learning.
So if you want to take in information while you're cooking dinner, while you're driving your car, while you're walking the dogs, it's a great way to do so because the more information sitting on the toilet, the more you can take in, the more you can learn, then the better a person you're probably going to be. So,
like it.
If you want to check out Audible, they've got so many titles, guys. They got it all, and it's all at www.audibletrial.com/ADVF radio. You go there, you'll get a 30-day free trial, and you'll also get one free audiobook to get you started. And we are also brought to you by Adventure Fit Travel. So we've got Everest coming up, guys. Everest Base Camp in September. It runs through to October. It's 15 days, trekking through the Khumbu region with Mac will be leading that trip, co-host of Adventure Fit Radio. Mac Rundle will be leading that with our team from Nepal. The guys are great. The people over there are great. The experience is first class. And do yourself a favour, head to www.adventuretravel.com and check it out. Ready for the show?
Pumped.
Alrighty, here it is.
Go for it.
Alrighty. Well, we may as well just start us off now, Tommy. Let's hit it up with Tommy's tribute.
Beautiful.
Serenade me.
Serenade, I certainly will. So for everyone at home, I've chosen Single Ladies because we all know the famous Instagram video that you put up, mate. Geez, that got a lot of love, didn't it?
It did, hey.
Yeah.
I posted it and then flew overseas, and the next day it was a little bit gangbusters.
Yeah,
eh?
that's right. Alrighty, so here we go. It's a one chord song. My singing is atrocious, by the way, mate.
That's all right. You know, this is the first time a man has sat opposite me on a couch and sung to me.
Right.
So,
all right, here we go. All the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies. Now put your hands up. Walking to the gym, doing your own thing. We're speaking to your man today. He's got all the tats, he's got all the abs. I bet you're happy he isn't gay. Want to know how he trains and how he maintains a fitness level like he does. Cause he's back at the games to reignite the flames, forgetting fucking tons of girls' names. Cause if you want him, then you should give him a like on the gram. Even though I'm not really sure he is a single man. But it doesn't really matter, do the best you can. If you're a single lady, you really should be getting the tan. To get with Khan. Welcome to the show.
I am absolutely chuffed with that, gentlemen. That's the first time anyone has, that I'm aware of, written a song about me, and that was unreal, fellas. Really good stuff.
Welcome, mate. Bet you happy he isn't gay for all the single ladies out there.
Allegedly, I heard he was.
Yeah.
That was one of your better ones.
Confirmed.
I know. As I said, man, I was half pissed when I wrote it.
I can't remember who showed me. Jen, this chick was on one of our Adventure Fit trips, said there's some really cute CrossFitters in Australia, but it's a shame that they're gay. And I said, what do you mean, Jen? And she goes, oh, you know, what's his name? He went to the CrossFit Games. Khan someone. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if Khan Porter's gay. She goes, no, he is. Look, he is. And she showed me a photo of you and your mates in your budgie smugglers, like
right.
all hugging, embracing.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, I think that's a piss take, Jen, but who knows?
Really masculine dudes in Australia do that.
Yeah, no, I think I like to leave it a little ambiguous. I'm not gay, but at the same time, I think someone posted on Twitter last year words to that effect, like, super upset that Khan Porter is gay or something like that. And I remember writing back, I was like, I'm actually not, but I make no apologies for leading that impression on. Like, if anything, that's a compliment. Thank you.
That's right.
And then all these people were just like, that's great. It's a great idea. It's sort of like mentality to have.
Operation Make Khan Gay.
I don't know how successful they're going to be. I'm actually very straight.
That's right.
Very straight. We'll definitely go into that later. So, Khan, thanks for coming on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history? Tell us about Khan Porter.
It's a very broad question. My history. I guess I got into CrossFit about 4 years ago. I was working full-time as a journo in my final year of university, studying comms with a major in journalism. And I would always play different sports, I guess, from the time I was a kid. My parents used to make me play sport growing up. And I was just training to keep fit and healthy. And then I saw CrossFit. I was introduced to it at a Globo gym and kind of saw it as a means of, I guess, competing with myself and with all these people all over the world that were posting these scores from these workouts. And it really appealed to my competitive nature. And I figured, it's something that I can just do recreationally and get as good as I want to get at it. And as long as I'm getting better and better and better, then that's kind of cool. And then I saw the CrossFit Games. Pardon me, I'm probably going to burp a few. It was a bad idea to drink a beer while we were doing this. And then I kind of saw the games in that and thought, I wouldn't mind giving this a go. So I found myself in a full-time job with a disposable income for the first sort of time in my life. And a gym opened up near the home. Walked in and pretty much just was like, yeah, sweet. I'm going to go to, hey, I want to do CrossFit. I want to do CrossFit Games and like probably start with regionals. And I remember, like, obviously, as you do the CrossFit gym, was just okay, we'll see how you go. But I think like a couple of weeks in, I had a 220 Fran done, like, and dusted. So once I learned how to do butterfly pull-ups properly, and I kind of picked everything up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I'm just that kind of competitive person where if I want to win something, that's kind of it. Like, I have to, and if I don't, I will beat myself up over it, and to the point where I figure out what did I do wrong and how can I make myself better in that way and fix that. And and then I don't know, I've been working full time writing, and then I had a contract, and that contract finished up. And then I found myself sort of immersed in the coaching world and came to a realization that I really loved, I guess, more than anything, I guess, the community aspect of CrossFit, that it built this entire kind of, this like group of people with all sort of similar interests. And it became such a huge part of the people's lives who did it to the extent that I was doing it. And that led me to set up this gym sort of a week before I made regionals for the first time. And then I think we were talking about it earlier, made regionals and placed 10th, sort of almost sort of 7-8 months into CrossFit. I thought, okay, if I really knuckle down with this, I can potentially have a decent crack at it. And the next year qualified for the games. And that kind of changed the scope of what I was doing with running my own facility, and sort of shifted focus more towards, I guess, an athletic career, if you'll call it that, within the CrossFit space, which has kind of come full circle now to the point where I am, I guess, now looking for what's sort of beyond the athletic side of things. See you later, lads. And sort of exploring all those sorts of things, cool. At this point in time.
Cool. So we'll take it back right to the start. I heard you mention that your parents made you play sport.
Yeah.
Were you a sporty kid? Like, what do you mean? It's not a way that you normally phrase it.
Not in a negative way. That probably the phrasing came out probably wrong. Not in a negative way. Just didn't
pushed you to be athletic and try everything.
Well, it was, rather than have us sit inside and play video games and stuff like that, I was always like, particularly when I was younger, I was quite a chubby kid. And also, like, could be a little socially awkward. So my parents kind of had this whole. It was more about getting us out of the house and teaching us that you had to, be active, and that having an active lifestyle was just a part of life. So they'd put us into these team sports and stuff. And summer and winter, we had to do one. We had to do something that was physically active because it was good for you.
Yep.
And that
Makes
was
sense.
kind of, I guess, it wasn't like it was a negative thing. I luckily, it took me a little while, but then I really took to the sports that I participated in. It was pretty much footy all winter and then surf lifesaving all summer.
So footy, you mean Rugby
union.
Rugby union.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
And I played like a New South Wales country level and schools level in rugby, and was competing at like a national level surf lifesaving as well. And that was all, that was good fun. And it taught me that, because I am a competitive person and I wanted to do well at them, that kind of gave me this drive, and it taught me the importance of training. And it's interesting as well. I think it's funny, like becoming a bit of a sort of, I don't know, starting to read into more things, like, everything happens for a reason and there's all this sort of stuff. But I remember at primary school, when I was less sort of sportingly inclined, I used to really pursue wanting to be, I had a real keen interest in the academic side of things, and I tried really hard at school, and I sat a test and got into a selective high school for academic high school. And then went there, and I went to this very small primary school where there were only a handful of kids in the grade. And I actually, then once I got into this academic school, it was this kind of big fish in a little pond going to be this like little fish in a big pond, where there were all these like genius level kids. And I was just so overshadowed when it came to the academic side of things that I went, all right, well, I'm going to kind of go down the avenue of sport, because I've always played sport. I'm going to kind of go down that avenue, and that's going to be my thing that I can really put my attention into. And then, that's where I guess I developed the passion for, fitness and training from.
Yeah, but that makes sense. I suppose you're always going to kind of gravitate to, it's human nature to gravitate to something that you feel like you can excel at. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to end the day, family, successful and achieved things. You want to set your mind to something and go out and achieve it. So that's great. So you were working in journalism. So from school, you studied to be a journalist. And what, that was your plan, or?
Nah. So from school, I got also, like, my head runs at 100 mile an hour, and I always have like a different idea, and I'm always doing 10 million things at once. And it's kind of been that way for as long as I can remember. And I sort of finished high school and kind of really wanted to travel, but then kind of didn't. I was seeing a girl at the time, and she was at uni, so I was like, fuck, I'm going to go to you. There he is, already dropped my first fuck. And then I was like,
there we go.
I was like, I'm going to go to uni. And so I went to uni, and I was studying criminology, and I got into that, started studying that. I'm not entirely sure what I wanted to do. I think I'd been watching a lot of CSI at that point in time.
Good.
And then, good show.
Really good.
Back in the day, the original, that CSI Miami
I love my
was
gangster
rubbish.
books.
I used to have fucking panic attacks about that show. It used to freak me out. Just dead bodies.
Yeah, right.
I know, but it was like, and for some reason, because it was new, everyone's parents were like, no, it's okay. I know that you're a child and this is quite graphic, but because this is a new show and everyone's into it, you can watch it. So sitting there going, fuck, I'm like, all these people get killed all the time. Yeah. No, so we, I lasted all of 6 months there and was like, why the fuck are you at university? You hated school at the end and all you wanted to do was go surfing. So dropped out of uni, and I was lifeguarding full time. I was lifeguarding at the time professionally, and so before we go on, what does lifeguarding pay? Pays well if you're a full-time lifeguard. Yeah. I mean, but it was only 7 months of the year that I'd work, so I'd work from September through to say end of April.
Yep.
Or early May even. I think it was usually the Anzac Day weekend we'd finish up.
Yep.
So I'd work that stint in time, and it was a pretty good hourly rate for a young guy that's still living at home and that sort of stuff. So I had money and
sick lifestyle
Definitely.
too.
I was sick, and then I'd finish. We'd go to Bali every year. I'd go to Bali, go surfing in the off season. But kind of that life, I guess, the nature of person that I am is I get very stale and very stagnant very quickly, and that fucks with my head a lot. And so I found myself, that was cool for kind of a year, and then I found myself in a bit of a rut, like I guess sort of mentally, because I felt that I was just completely understimulated. And so I started, which I still do, just spending hours and hours and hours reading about fitness and training and that sort of thing. And that became like this kind of passion of mine, particularly when in the off season, when I wasn't overseas, I effectively did not have a job. I was living off money that I would save in the season. So I'd wake up at like whenever I wanted to, and kind of all I had to do in a day was maybe go and work out. And as I'd go and work out, and then I'd spend hours at my computer. I'd listen to podcasts. I'd read things.
Sounds like a really fucking good gig.
Yeah.
Well, it does. But at the same time, I found myself, I found myself completely understimulated by that lifestyle, and then made the decision to move to Sydney.
So where were you at this stage?
I'm still on the Central Coast. That's where I grew up.
Gotcha.
And sort of moved to Sydney, and thought I'd pursue a career in the fitness industry, but I dipped my toe in that world and hated it so much that I was like adamant that I was never going to work in that industry. That's some
of it sucks. Hey?
It's such a fucked industry, man.
Yeah.
Like there's so much. I don't know, could talk for hours.
I actually,
I think
felt
that's wrong with it.
Very, very much the same. I was always wanted something in the fitness industry, and then I don't actually CrossFit anymore. Adventure Fit just engulfed my life, and then competitively, I'm a weightlifter. Tommy loves it when I say that because I say it every show.
Every single show. what are you again, mate? What do you do?
I'm a weightlifter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Competitive weightlifter.
Get around it.
Pick up things off the ground.
But in all seriousness, though, until I found CrossFit, I didn't like the fitness industry either. I literally thought this niche, I found it, and I was like, wow, this actually fucking works. The community aspect is awesome, and it, that's when I actually entered the fitness industry.
Well, I don't necessarily think there's... I mean, this is where, like, those CrossFit purists out there probably shoot me for this, but I don't necessarily think it's CrossFit so much as just, I guess, the advancement of the fitness industry at the time that I kind of dipped my toes in was still completely overrun by this mentality that bodybuilding and figure modeling and stuff like that was how you trained. You did 4 sets of 10 and you supersetted everything, and that's how you got it. And I was like, this is fucked. I don't want to be this big hulking dude, and I don't want to be working in an industry where you're kind of put on this godlike pedestal if you are this ripped up, hulking
100%.
sort of massive human, even if you have no concept of how to actually train someone.
Have you been to the Health and Fitness Expos before? You do. You competed.
Yeah, I've been down there a few times.
So we've done the Adventure Fit, have been there a couple of times, and the ones that we haven't set up a stall at, I've gone there and walked around. The Health and Fitness Expo in Melbourne and Sydney is the furthest fucking thing from health and fitness. Like, you're looking at extremes. Figure modelling, for mine, I don't like it at all. I really can't get my head around it. Bodybuilding on the other side, powerlifting, like, it's not fitness.
And you have to say that because there's no weightlifting there, though.
There is weightlifting.
There is a bit of weightlifting.
There's weightlifting there
thing that Rob was running.
Yeah, I've been to the one with Rob, like pretty good friends. Like, Rob's a good mate of mine, and I went down and hosted with him the last one that he ran. And it was just like an intermediate one, but he ran like an actual sort of invitational one last year that was pretty sick. But you're right. But I think there is a paradigm shift occurring. Today, I had a meeting this morning with the head of fitness in New South Wales for Fitness First clubs about going in and doing him asking me. It's quite a funny story. I was sitting at a coffee shop having breakfast, and so this guy walked past, and I saw him kind of double take and then back around in, and I was like, oh, what's this guy's deal? Yeah. So he came up, he's like, Khan. I was like, yeah. And he's like, you may not remember me, but I sat next to you at this Health and Fitness Expo. We got chatting. I've actually been meaning to get a hold of you. I'm fitness manager at Fitness First, and would you be interested in coming in and doing some seminars and some workshops, like upskilling our PTs on, I guess, functional fitness training from your perspective? And I was like, fuck, that's a pretty massive kind of shift for Fitness First to be kind of approaching someone that has, particularly someone with no interest in Fitness First, the brand, or working at Fitness First. But yeah, so I sort of thought that was pretty cool.
It's good that they're open to that sort of training,
exactly right.
Because they're the majority of the industry as well. Really, CrossFit's the minority of the industry, and functional fitness is.
Yeah. But you're right about that paradigm shift. I mean, you have to look at the past couple of health and fitness expos, and there's definitely a lot more people just watching and seeing what the CrossFitters do, as opposed to, I mean, there were still huge crowds at the bodybuilding and the sculpting and all that sort of stuff. But people are starting to sort of have a look at, what all these tattooed ripped people are doing. It's good. Me definitely being one of them.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's go into. So you've finished your studies, your journalism, then you've started competing in CrossFit, I suppose.
Yeah.
At what point did you realise, right, I'm gonna really take this seriously? Obviously, you said your first crack at it, you kind of made regionals. I suppose after that point, was it like, right, I'm gonna upskill my game. I'm gonna try and hit it harder 10th, now.
When I finished 10th that first year, I think looking back on that, if I looked at, I didn't deadlift at all because I had a back injury, and I'd been told, because that was kind of what you were told at the time by doctors and sports professionals, don't deadlift because that will hurt your back more. So I hadn't deadlifted, and that workout came up with 21, 15, 9 heavy deadlifts. So I was already fucked then. And I was like, well, okay, maybe if you deadlift for a bit, you might have been able to go better in that workout. So there's a bit of an improvement there. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how to do muscle ups without a false grip. So I was like, if you can actually learn to do a proper kipping muscle up without a false grip, that's probably going to help you as well. So there's another event that you could have gone better on and improved your placing. And I think I kind of saw that there were just so many holes in my game as an athlete, that I was still able to place where I did, that I thought, you know what, if you actually learn refine the skills, if you will, and have yourself that you're a lot more rounded next year, you're already pretty fit, pardon me again. You're already pretty fit. You're already pretty good at most.
What is that beer you're drinking, mate?
Stonewood.
Nice little Stonewood. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, it's that good. I don't know if Stonewood. I assume Stonewood's listening to this podcast.
Yeah,
and if
that's right. Yeah, well, they are responsible.
www.stoneandwood.com.au.
Yeah, if there is anyone from Stone and Wood out here, I drink a lot of your beer, and if you would like to send me a couple of free cases, I'm not going to turn it down.
Stone and Wood, hashtag Stone and Wood.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't it be great? When is beer going to start sponsoring athletes? Probably never.
Beer should sponsor
You can be the first,
fitness thing, shouldn't they? I reckon that'd be good.
Well,
because you can just go, oh, yeah, we like to relax just as much as we want to play.
Exactly right. And at every single competition that I go to, and I'm not sure if this is just because I'm at those competitions, there is always some sort of after event in which there is beer consumed.
Probably solely because of you, mate.
Spearheading that kind of beer consumed campaign.
Are you sponsored by a gaming company?
It's not a sponsorship. I have an agent, and she's fantastic, and she has got me a kind of a setup with Ubisoft, and so Ubisoft, the gaming company, I've done a couple of campaigns for them now, and it's not like, I guess, a specific sponsorship. It's more I just do campaigns for them based around them releasing a new game and me coming up with a workout for that game. And
that's sick.
Then they come and shoot, me doing that workout, etc., and take some photos of me playing the game.
It's actually kind of cool because it's like
neat
it's
little
kind of
paycheck.
like kind of crossing over to the mainstream a little bit as well, because that's a lot of people that wouldn't have seen CrossFit 2. A and 2. Or A and B.
A and B.
Preferably.
That's all right. We can mix it up. Here. We don't discriminate between numbers like that is on this show.
I like to keep you guys
show for everybody.
That's how we do things. But
what's in that water, mate? Is that Stonewood in that water?
Let's go. All right, let's go back to. All right, so you're competing at this stage.
I love a tangent. I'm so sorry.
How good are they?
I get the feeling that's not the first or the last.
No, there's going to be some serious tangents.
I get the feeling that's not the first. Oh, come on. Anyway, Khan, so at that point when you've started the regionals, what was your training look like? How many hours a day? And then when you decided...
This is leading up to my first regionals or from the first regionals?
Yeah, leading up to the first regionals, is it just one watt a day, just regular?
No, I was basically just training as much as I could. I would... It was kind of that period in time where Outlaws programming was seen as the pinnacle of what you were meant to do, because apparently you needed to be really, really good at all the Olympic lifts to be able to be good at CrossFit. So I actually devoted a shit ton of time to getting my snatch and my clean and jerk better. And then at regionals, there was neither the snatch nor the clean and jerk, but that's neither here nor there. So that was kind of, that made up a huge, because I'd never Olympic lifted. I'd never strength trained per se when I started CrossFit. I'd never done, like back squatted twice a week and then snatched and clean and jerked. I learnt those movements. I walked into a CrossFit gym and I could kind of just reef 80 kilos off the floor in a snatch and land in this bizarre starfish position, which I still kind of end up in when I'm snatching heavy and I'm going power, unfortunately. But I just had this. So that was a lot of my training. And then I just love working out, man. I just love doing Metcons. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, I wasn't one of those all beat up, haggard, old CrossFit guys, they would call me an old CrossFit guy now, that has, creaky knees and elbow tendonitis and has to kind of manage their injuries. I was young and I was new to the sport, so I just trained, dude. I just go, there's no reason that I can't go 21, 15, 9 calories on a rower and burpees now. There's no reason that I can't do that. It's not going to leave me beat up. It's not going to tax me. There's no reason that I can't. And I think these kind of mentalities that I had around training have really shaped the way that I've kind of packaged up what I do, I guess now, which is the methodology to the method behind my training, which is effectively what I've packaged up when I do my online coaching and when I do the seminars and stuff, and why I have this, I guess, replicate, this model that can be replicated that I can go and pitch to companies like Fitness First and stuff like that, because there is a system to what I'm doing. But at that point in time, it was just get training in, man. Just train as much as you can. And anytime I do classes and stuff, and it's basically, if I was in a class, I had to scale up the workout and I had to win. And that was just the mentality that I had. And so that was just this scattergun approach, and it paid off as it did. But then after regionals, I kind of started to structure things more. And I started to work with a coach, Drew Griffith, who's Coach RX, who's on the Gold Coast. And he's great. I'm still good friends with Drew. He coaches Tia, so relatively successful.
He coaches Olympians.
Yeah, that's
some chick named Tia Claire Toomey, that may be the second fittest women in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe going to Rio.
And he's also an Olympian now.
Yeah. What a freak athlete, man.
That's insane.
It's great for the sport in general, and it's great for Australian CrossFit too.
One of my mates said the other day in my weightlifting club, said he wasn't happy with the fact that Tia was going to the games because she's not weightlifting isn't her number one sport. And I was like, why don't you look at it as in
Then
how
I say sucked in.
yeah,
That's awesome.
But what about how about what an athlete to be that good and be able to make yourself an Olympian as well as the CrossFit
To
Games?
go to the CrossFit Games and a couple of weeks later go and lift at the Olympics. A couple of weeks after last year's CrossFit Games, I couldn't lift myself off the floor.
She did last year too. She went to the Games, came second, and then 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks prior, she went to the, it wasn't the Olympics obviously, but it was the Pan Pacifics, is it?
Yeah,
no, the Australasian Games, and she came second there. I think it was a fucking international weightlifting meet.
It's insane.
It's a freak athlete,
Absolute freak. Anyway,
freak athlete.
yeah.
That's right.
So I was working with Drew, and the biggest thing was, one, we started to do a lot more refining, but we started to systemize how we, I guess, progressed every facet of fitness. So whether it was my skills, whether it was my strength, whether it was my conditioning, it wasn't just that kind of, I couldn't do a kipping muscle up. So I kind of just after regionals, I sort of spent about 12 weeks on my own before I started working with the coach going, I want to bring all these skills up to par until I feel like I'm sort of a bit more rounded, then I'll go with the coach. And so one of the things was, I can do kipping muscle up. I can do one kipping muscle up with a non-false grip. Cool. I'll do one kipping muscle up every minute for 10 minutes. And then the next week's like, okay, now I'll do 2 for as many minutes as I can link them together, and then I'll just go back to 1.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet, I can do 3, I can do 4, I can do 5. Sweet. I got to 5 kipping muscle ups every minute for 10 minutes. I was like, sweet, like my muscle ups are now significantly better, and I'm pretty confident that I can do them without a false grip. So let's look at the next skills that I need to do. I did a deadlift program. The boys at the gym actually just did the exact same deadlifting program that I put myself on, which was based off, there's this, I was looking around at different sort of 3-day-a-week lifting programs, and there's one called the Russian squat program. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wonder if I can do this with deadlifts. And I did, and I got like epic results from that. My ability to deadlift just turned from me not being able to deadlift at all to within, it's like a 6-week program. 6 weeks later, my deadlift was, pretty solid.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously I'd been pulling from the floor with a snatch and the clean and jerk, but I just hadn't devoted time. And then I started working with Drew though, and we sort of went into and he was great, like phenomenal for my training, having some structure and having someone I was accountable to. And then I went and did Schwartz's, and I placed quite well at Schwartz's. I think I placed 5th. Again, still with things that they tested a max handstand hold. I'd never tried to hold a handstand.
I competed
before.
that Schwartz's actually.
Did you?
Yeah, because I remember the max handstand hold in 2 minutes in the
Yeah,
square.
and you could walk around, and I could barely
man.
I
walk.
thought you said you were a weightlifter.
Yeah, hang on a second. We're starting to backtrack here.
Hang on.
No, but he also doesn't discriminate between his numbers and his letters. He doesn't discriminate between
Yeah, that's
CrossFit
right.
and weightlifting.
That's very true, yeah.
A jack of all trades.
A2.
And
That's the quote of the episode, I think.
yeah, A2. A or 2. Yeah. I feel like I've done that so many times.
That's probably the dumbest thing I've said on the podcast.
That's not a spoonerism, is it? That's not called a spoonerism, is it?
Spoonerism.
A spooner?
No, isn't it like a spoonerism like when you do that? Or no?
That's the first time I've ever heard the word spoonerism.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's
we'll figure it
not
out,
do a tangent about spoonerism.
Sorry.
Well, no, I'm genuinely intrigued as to what spoonerism means. You look that up while we get back to Schwartz's. But so, yeah, I think I placed 5th at that Schwartz's competition. But again, there was like a bunch of things that he tested there that I'd never really done before. And I also still had a massive issue with pacing. I didn't know how to pace workouts. I would just go out guns blazing.
Get really excited.
And just hold on. And that doesn't work when you're versing people like Rob Forte, who's the master of pacing workouts. You'd be like, why was I beating him by so much and now he's ahead of me? But it was a massive confidence boost to be sitting, up there with the big dogs at that event, beating some of the boys in some of the events as well. Mm-hmm. So then going into regionals 2014, I 100% did not think I was going to make the games. I had no aspirations to make the games. The programming came out. They had a handstand walk for max distance. I sucked on my hands. And I remember thinking, okay, what people are going to get maybe one length of the thing. Someone that's really good will be able to walk one length.
Yeah.
We were the second week, and I remember watching the first week and looking at the numbers and being like, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's got to be, how are they scoring this? That can't be how far they've walked in total. That's like 3 lengths that people are doing unbroken. And then I realized I went and watched the workouts. I was like, I'm fucked. Like, I'm so fucked. I'm not going to make a full.
That's the one that killed Sam Briggs too.
Yeah, that did. Yeah. That's right.
And I think I came 30th in that. So, I mean, I PR'd my hand. So I made like 100 foot. So I almost made a full length. And I think I was sitting 19th after that. And as I said, just no part of me thought I was going to go to the games. Drew just sort of said, I'll make sure you win. the next one, it was that Nasty Girls. And weirdly, because I'm not anymore, so I've had that many knee injuries, I was really good at pistols when I started CrossFit. And it was just, a pistol workout and pistols and muscle ups. Obviously, I've been working my muscle ups heaps. And yeah, I was able to win that, and it pushed me up into 6th. And I kind of looked at the rest of the workouts for the weekend and thought, I'm not too bad at any of this sort of stuff here. Like, I could give this a crack. And then, overhead squats I suck, but they were the final workout. And I just had to sort of do that mistake free. And yeah, when I qualified for the games that year, I was pretty blown away. Like, I kind of didn't expect it, and I loved it. Like, it was awesome. It kind of changed my scope a little bit. And then all of a sudden, for better or worse, I started to define myself as an athlete. And that was kind of what I wanted, I guess, to pursue was an athletic career. And it became, from a pipe dream to a reality that there was this potential for me to do that. And
So cool.
I just wanted to ask before, you mentioned you said you had a lot of knee injuries. How is your body managing now? And how do you take that, I guess, new approach to managing everybody going into this year's
touch wood? This is probably the best my body's been in quite some time. I still have knee issues that flare up here and there. I had a tear, tore my patella tendon last year. Well, not a full tear, but a partial tear. My patella tendon from the games last year.
Yep.
And that kind of took me until I wasn't really squatting until sort of mid-January this year. And I was only training, I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was being so banged up after the games that it really stopped me. I couldn't train as much. And I was sort of only training 3 full days a week, I guess up until the end of the Open. Right through the Open and stuff as well. I was training 3 full days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then I'd swim on a Tuesday with some of the boys from the gym. And I would then maybe do a Metcon on the Saturday. But I wouldn't, it would depend. If I went out Friday night, I wouldn't train Saturday. But I would just train Saturday morning. And that kind of more chilled approach to my volume particularly. And I was so limited in what I could do. I was just a lot of assault bike, a lot of rowing and stuff, and a lot of skill work. And that period of lower volume did wonders for my body, combined with the fact that I work with Balance Health and Performance. It's just a blatant plug right there. That's what that was.
That's what we're good for.
They're actually fantastic. Nick from Balance is really, really good. He and I've been seeing him twice a week. Seeing him in a professional manner. Twice a week, every week.
He's not gay.
He's not back to that first part of the song.
All the single ladies, remember the song?
So I've been going there twice a week and seeing him and some of the other people there, and it's great. That sort of consistent treatment has combined with the lower volume and just smarter training, man. I think I've just gotten smarter with, CrossFit's an evolving sport, and my approach to training and my approach to how to train effectively has changed to meet the demands of that sport. And it just sees my body in a better position now, particularly in the lead up to the games. I was pretty broken going into the games last 2 years.
It's funny, when we spoke to Rob, he said that this year or this season he's had probably more days off than he's ever had, and he feels like he's in a better place than he's ever been.
Cinnamon as well.
Yeah, Mitch said that as well, didn't he?
We interviewed Mitch Cinnamon, who's obviously trained at Schwartz's for a good portion of his training career. And, there's so many people that have spent 5 or 6 hours a day training. But Mitch, he's been in that period, and then now he's back to kind of one good 2-hour session. He'll break that up sometimes, so he'll just squat, he'll do an hour, then he'll do some recovery stuff, and then he'll do another hour. And he's getting
recovery stuff.
And he
just sauna, his flotation tank.
He just qualified to the games for the first time. So what does it look like now for you then, after years of experience? After how old are you now?
26.
26. So a couple of extra years in the body, obviously. I'm 30. I know it actually changes. 22, I could do anything. 17, I used to play 3 or 4 games of footy, school footy in a week.
It's crazy. You play 3 or 4 games of footy in a day. Yeah,
no shit. It wouldn't affect you at all. And then now it's totally different. I'm 30. It's different. I know how the body changes. Mate. So how for you how does it look now, volume wise?
I just honestly just go. I feel like I work with Justin, who I know you guys interviewed as well, Kotler, and he sends me programming, which I stick to. I don't know, I guess I'd say maybe like 60%.
Yep.
50, 60%. But then I'll also just go by feel. If Monday this week, I trained like 3 times, did like 7 workouts, and just felt awesome all day. So I did that. Today, I feel like shit. Like I told you guys when I came in, I just finished up a workout. I squatted terribly. I did 5 rounds of a 7-round workout, like interval workout, and didn't feel that great. I'll gauge it if I feel decent this afternoon. I might do another Metcon, but it will be just like 10 minutes of Metcon, movements that aren't going to hurt me, movements that aren't going to tax my central nervous system and my joints. And it's just that kind of intuitive training now as well. Becomes so important to being able to, I guess, stay functional. And that's the biggest difference now is training, that sort of intuitive training, I guess, more than anything else.
So when you say stay functional, obviously like rehab and looking after your body is a pretty big part of it as well, especially when you are right at the top of CrossFit, for example, because it's so hard on your body, so much volume. So what do you do for keeping your body supple, keeping your ability to back it up in the gym? What do you do? What are your practices that you
So I'm
like to
kind
get up
of
to?
blessed and cursed with hypermobility through a lot of my joints. It's great for some things. It's great for the fact that I could roll out of bed first thing in the morning barefoot and hop down to the bottom of a pistol, but it's also terrible. And I can do the splits. Not really. Pretty close to it. But it's also...
Side or front?
Pardon?
Side or front?
Side. The practical way.
The good way. The only way.
The only way that counts.
That's right.
But then it also means that I lack control at the end range in most movements. So for me, if you watch when I do really heavy jerks or cleans or snatches and stuff, I often look quite wobbly.
Yep.
Which is because those joints, for me, if I'm overhead and my arm is slightly in front of my head, I don't really get a stretch sensation until it's kind of almost completely turned around, full exorcist style at the back there. So I'm kind of, I've gotten a lot better at working on those stability type things, and that kind of puts a lot of stress on the joints. So I don't necessarily do a huge amount of, I guess, like your typical mobility, because a lot of that is almost counterproductive for me.
Yeah.
I do a fair bit of static stretching now. My buddy Matt Healy, he started static stretching and was telling me how good it felt. And so I've just started a lot more static stretching in the areas that I'm not super mobile through. But then do a lot of sort of the more activation, stabilization and stuff like that. But then, I relax. Like I think for me, the biggest thing that I need to work on recovery wise is my mind. It's like getting that to sort of chill out and stop. And it's something that I have full clinical issues with, but I'm able to kind of I've taken particularly the last few months, just getting out of the gym, not putting pressure on myself when it comes to training, doing training intuitively rather than what I have to do on a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
Doing what feels good rather than what my legs are still getting back to where they used to be because I didn't squat from August through to January. But instead of being stressed about that and consistently starting these hectic squat programs that 3 days in would leave my knees banged up, I'm just like, well, if you can't squat that good at the games, guess what? You're not going to do that great in the squat events. Like if you get a little bit better at squatting between now and the games, the other guy's already great at squatting. You might go, instead of coming 20th in that event, you might come 15th or 18th. You'll make 6 different points. However, if your knees are non-functioning for the entire weekend, then all of a sudden there's events that you could potentially do really well at that you're going to lose points at.
Definitely.
For sure. And if your brain's fried through a 6-month period of training and you put too much pressure on yourself, you're useless to anyone.
It's just frustrating. It is frustrating. There was a period of time, like we were saying, I guess we stopped at kind of 2014. 2015 came around, regionals, and I was just in such a shitty place mentally because, I had a fucked back end of the year 2014. I had a bunch of shit going on in my personal life. And then a bunch of shit at the start of 2015 as well. And I was in a legitimately terrible place mentally. A terrible, terrible place. You can ask anyone that I'm close to. I almost pulled out of regionals 2015 the week of because I had such hectic shit going on in my personal life that I was... And because I had all this... not all of it, but then some of it was added to... by this pressure that I'd put on myself that, you made the CrossFit Games last year. You must make the CrossFit Games again this year. If you don't make the CrossFit Games this year, well,
you're
what
a failure.
The fuck? What do you do?
Yep.
And, I was just in such a bad way. And I think even off the back of the games, the frustration that went with not being able to train properly and stuff like that, and just all the shit you go through and you kind of learn about yourself when you're not able to do, to do what I think 2015, it wasn't something that I loved anymore. I saw it as a chore. This beautiful thing that had been this outlet for me, and this kind of positive thing on my sort of mental health was now a source of frustration and a source of a difficulty because I wasn't enjoying it. And, it became, especially off the back of the games and stuff, being injured, it became like this thing that used to be a positive outlet became a negative. And therefore, like, what else have you got to do? So I was just partying and drinking and shit. And that was kind of my only, that was my outlet.
Yep.
And
when training used to be your outlet.
Used to be. And now I'm at this point in time where I'm incredibly lucky that I'm able to train the full spectrum for the first time in as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. Like, I can squat when I want to squat. I can pull from the floor when I want to pull. I can go overhead. My whole body is working to the extent that I'm able to train. I can get sent a program and I can do it. I don't have to be like, my knees are too banged up. I can't squat consistently. And, my body's in a good place. And it's so nice. And I'm enjoying training so much. I kind of set myself that goal after regionals, particularly this year. I remember this year, sitting in 6th after day 2. I never found myself outside the top qualifying position going into day 3. The last 2 years I'd qualified. Yep. Particularly last year, me and Rob were so far ahead that it was kind of, I got to take my foot off the pedal, the accelerator to an extent on the final day. Which was lovely, but at the same time, so I found myself in this position. I was like, well, you can't take it for granted anymore. Like, the fact that you're going to the games is a gift and a privilege, and it's something that should be enjoyed, particularly the training for it. I mean, I get to do cool shit. I get to go and paddle a board or go for a run through the bush and just
you to come in and hang out with your mates and put some fun music on. So you obviously, you see it on your Instagram and your social medias. People are drawn to you, I think, because you have fun with what you're doing.
Well,
you don't take yourself too seriously.
Out in the post,
you don't take yourselves too seriously, and that's like me walking into the gym. It's my happy place, 100%. And I used to have a football club. Now I have a weightlifting club. But like you say, when there's times that I've been through as well with football, with weightlifting, with whatever, when it becomes a chore and you're like, well, where the fuck's my happy place now?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly right. And
definitely.
I do. Like that, you talked about it when you did your intro thing, that Beyonce Single Ladies video exists for the pure, I didn't create that video to put on Instagram. I didn't go, I'm going to do a dance and then I'm going to lift that bar.
This is going to go viral. That was me
rolling the camera, filming a lift, and I'd been dancing around the gym anyway, and I just danced on over, lifted the bar, and then danced off. That's just how... we would train. And the thing was, when I say that training was a negative, it wasn't always. There were sessions like that were just awesome and things felt good and I was having fun. But then as soon as anything kind of went wrong and the frustration of having these ongoing injuries took place, that's when I would just start to beat myself up mentally as well. And it just became a negative. So right now, man, it's just awesome. I'm loving training. I have absolutely no expectation on how I'm going to go at the games. I don't, I have no desire. I'm not going to win the CrossFit Games. I'll tell you that right now. I would probably never win it because I don't have that pressing desire to win it. I just want to enjoy the opportunity that I have to represent myself, my gym, my country, and all my fans and followers, I guess, if you will, on the world stage, doing something I love. And the opportunity that I get, the opportunities that I get off the back of that to then... to go over and it's fucking exercise at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly,
It's fast exercise. It's really fast. Sometimes it's quick. It's quick.
Sometimes it's really slow though as well. Sometimes it's really slow and tedious. There's people running on a treadmill for 8 minutes is not that enjoyable.
That's the thing though. You said it really well just then. I mean, the best people in the world are the best people in the world because they're fucking obsessed about it.
Yeah.
And irrespective of whether they enjoy the process or not, it doesn't matter. They have to win. I mean, I'm just reading Michael Jordan's book at the moment, and he was a dickhead for a lot of it because he just had to win, and there was just no other side to it. I really wanted to touch on the point you were talking about finding that mental relaxation and all that sort of stuff. Are there any
exactly what I was about to.
You just going to jump into that one? I'm going to jump in there first.
No, go. No,
are there any
guys, you can both jump into me.
We'll jump at the same. Yeah, that's
this
right.
is really starting.
We're not seeing each other. We're not seeing each other.
For the worst.
Everybody, pants are all still on. I wanted to hit home about some of the things you may do. I mean, Bill and I are super into meditating and all that sort of stuff. Do you meditate? Do you do mindfulness? Do you have a specific thing that works for you to relax, to switch off?
So I've tried meditation and I've tried mindfulness. I'm medically diagnosed with bipolar and severe anxiety. So for me to switch off, it's kind of, if I try to sit there and meditate, so I've my anxiety is so severe, and my partners that I've had in the stuff in the past and family will tell you, if I'm trying to go to, there's times where I won't get to sleep until 7 a.m. I just don't sleep. And the more I try to relax, the less relaxed I get. So I really have to do things to stimulate myself, but in a pretty simple way to switch off. And that's, for me, I'm still figuring out how to do that. There are times and there's awesome moments where I can really chill out, but meditation and mindfulness, I wish I could sit here and go, yeah, it's beautiful. And, I've tried apps, I've tried every sort of thing under the sun, and it doesn't work. I don't switch off. The more I try to meditate and clear my mind, the more my mind just goes, well, we're not doing anything right now.
The more frustrated you get.
Fuck you up.
Yeah.
And then everything just goes to shit. I think.
Wow.
Some of the best things that I've found is conversation is just something so simple, like having a conversation with someone where you just get so immersed in that person, and it can be, when I talk about getting immersed into anything where you become completely immersed in a moment. And for me, there is a beautiful thing that happens before I compete. And sometimes it happens in the gym, but very rarely. And it's that kind of point in time before, when you're in the start mat in a competition and they say, athletes stand by. From when they say athletes stand by to go, you are completely and totally invested in nothing but what's about to happen.
Present. Yep. You're present. Totally present.
So and it's a task at hand. You're not invested in trying to relax. You're invested in a task that you have to take part in immediately following them saying go. So when that point in time is one of the beautiful things, and I get, I love, there's been definitely destructive ways that I've sort of sought out trying to switch things off in my head, be that, alcohol or partying or even chicks. There's been destructive means of doing that. But yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure out. I love listening to, I've sort of recently started listening to podcasts, reading, and I still write. I mean, if you scroll through the notes section of my phone, there is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that I've just written. Because sometimes when my head's going so fast, I'll just stream of consciousness, put it onto paper. And
Definitely.
that actually sometimes really helps calm me down, and it gives me something to focus. So if anything, that would be, I guess that's probably the main one. But yeah,
it's
I don't
super
know.
unique to you as well.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
if you read some of the stuff, you'd probably go, fuck, someone needs to put this bloke in a bin, like a loony bin. But some of it's actually quite beautiful and poetic as well.
But that's part of it's myself and Tommy have both struggled with anxiety as well.
Yeah.
Tommy has, he can explain it, he has totally different anxiety to me. Me, it's social anxiety. I feel like I'm going to say something stupid in the room.
Yeah.
Somebody's bigger and more boisterous than me, I go into my shell and I start thinking things over. Tommy's is different things like death and stuff.
Yeah, probably more like irrational fears that have just engulfed me a lot. And, things where it's like I kind of felt, when I was going through the worst of it, it was kind of like, I don't feel like I can open up about this to anyone because it's so
silly,
bizarre. Like, why would I have a fear about eternal suffering after death and ghosts?
And that is
things.
such a kind of prevalent. That's a huge thing that I've really shifted what I want to do with, I guess, the platform that I've been given through being an athlete. And when I said before, we sort of stopped, it's just exercise, and there's more to that. I'm realizing now that the thing that this has given me isn't a mechanism, going to the games isn't a means for me of winning the CrossFit Games. It's a means for me being able to reach out and speak to people about things like mental health, particularly in guys. But you just nailed it. You don't want to talk about that because you see it as being somehow emasculating. And yet all of a sudden you've got these guys competing in this really sort of hyper masculine sport. They go, no, it's actually okay to be fucking not okay.
Fragile.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know what? What I was meaning to touch on with before we got on a little tangent again is with your journaling or whatever, putting your notes in. It's like when you go and speak to someone about this fears that you have inside your head, and you verbalize it or you write it down, and you look at it and you go, "Fuck, that is silly."
Yeah.
You know, you being able to read it and see it in words, or speak it to somebody else, and actually. It puts it into perspective and you go, why the fuck am I really thinking like that? And it can kind of alleviate the pressure a little bit.
But it almost removes you. For me, I feel like sometimes it can be as simple as a lot of my anxiety is kind of twofold. It's like that sort of social, and people sort of have this perception that I'm this really outgoing.
You have the exact same perception as me.
We all have the same thing.
People are like, oh my God, you never would have thought I'm like, yeah, but you don't know inside fucking my head.
And often people will come across and go like, you're actually quite rude and quite arrogant. And I'm like, I'm not. I feel uncomfortable. I might know someone.
I've listened to, just cut you off. I've had that same thing happen to me. I've been called arrogant plenty of times. We spoke about this on the show. We spoke about this on the podcast because I didn't wave to somebody on the other side of the road when I was little. And what was going through my head is, I wonder if they're going to wave. I wonder if they can see me.
Yes,
they didn't see me. Fucking hell.
To the T. I used to avoid going to like shopping centers and stuff where I knew I might see people I kind of know. Yeah. Because then I'd be in that awkward situation where I was like,
don't know where
do I make conversation with this person? But my conversation, what if it's weird? Like, what if the conversation is weird and they think I'm weird? So I would like purposefully remove myself 100%. From that. Or I would like go, like I've had people say before, I like go to a friend's gym or something like that and maybe like not go and introduce myself or go and say hello and stuff to people that I may have met once or twice before. But what they don't understand is like I'm super duper shy like that. Yeah. And I always have been. And it's this kind of like, people's perception is, people create these perceptions. And then once those perceptions exist as well and you're aware of these perceptions people have of you, fuck, that just resonates around and around and you're like, fuck, now am I even more weird because I'm not speaking to them and now I'm awkwardly making conversations to make myself not seem arrogant. Yeah, it's this vicious cycle. But it's this thing that like we're all sitting here talking about the same thing, and it's something that I'm so passionate about because there are probably hundreds of people listening to this going, fuck, I feel like that as well, but never even open their mouths about it because they think it sounds so illogical and stupid. We idolize these figures of traditional masculinity that exude this confidence and they've got everything going for them and all their ducks are in a row and they're so self-assured.
We look at still images or 48 minutes of play or 2 hours of... We see that of those people as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's the same fucking problem. You don't see inside of their head and what they've been...
You I guess you make up what you perceive them to be, and it's completely, clearly not true.
And mate, like I'm completely guilty of it as well and have been. I mean, I do pride myself on trying to be as open as possible as I can through social media. But there's also, I mean, when I first started using social media, I said before, I have like a background in the comms industry and I understand marketing and journalism, but there is an element of this is advertising, effectively, a brand, which is me. So you're going to give them a glimpse behind the glass, but at the same time, it's still such a kind of small scope, this kind of tiny little piece of a person that people are seeing and basing these wild assumptions and perceptions off. And I think that, it can be a very dangerous world to get caught up in. And it's something that now might hugely what I want to do moving forward as I guess, not an athlete so much as someone that has a platform with an audience is to talk about that because it's so important and it is so much bigger than exercise. Yeah. And that's a huge realization that I've made through my own journey with mental health and it's an ongoing journey. It's not something that I would necessarily say is completely, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like fucking good. Like I'm all good to go. I mean, only a week ago I was so run down because I wasn't getting to bed until like 7 a.m. and asked the chick that I'm seeing at the moment, like, I have physical, like my anxiety attacks can be so bad that I'll physically fit in bed, like laying there and I can't, like it can be so bad that I just don't sleep for hours and hours and hours and hours.
It's fucked, man.
Yeah. And so it's definitely not better, but it's that openness and acceptance of it and how you deal with it is such a pivotal part of the recovery process. And it's the part that most people don't even start on that journey and they just accept it. And, that's why you look at, there's staggering statistics out there. the incidence of mental health issues documented in women are like double that of men, yet men are 3 to 1 killing themselves to chicks. Now, why do you think that is?
My grandfather killed himself.
Yeah.
His father before him killed himself. I have family members that I won't name that are very, very, very... But the good thing is, it's much more highly spoken about in this day and age than it was. I took my grandma...
Still isn't there yet.
No, it's not. It's not.
But it is getting there.
It is getting there,
I had lunch with I stayed down in Mornington the other day, outside of the city of Melbourne, basically, and I crashed at my nan's, had a party going on or whatever, and the next day I took her out to lunch, caught up with my nan and stuff. And
Your nan had a party going on.
That's my nan. Yeah, that's my nan.
Raging.
That's
Cool.
that's my nan that lost my grandpa to killing himself.
Yes.
And I had a really good chat with her, and she says, because my grandpa was the same. He was like captain of his of school footy. He didn't get to play any sport as an adult because his father took him and made him work from 14 years old. But he was captain of the footy team, captain of the cricket team. He looked like Anthony Koutafidis, like he's an AFL footy player, like a Greek god, like really jacked, brown skin, most gregarious, outgoing dude you ever meet. But my grandmother said that it was 2 sides, like everybody. It was like his persona out in the open, and then he would come home and he would switch off and he would be a fucking shell of himself.
Absolutely.
And the problem was that she said that he was medicated from 35 till he took his own life. And then, but the thing was, she said he couldn't ever speak about it to his mates because it would be, like you say, emasculated.
It would have just been completely. And particularly when you've got this persona, and this is the issue as well. If you have this persona that's kind of this, like you said, these ideals that society puts out there that are the ideal man, and you're exuding them and you're being praised for them, and all of a sudden you start to define yourself by these qualities that society kind of give to you and say, hey, you've got this, you are that. Then all of a sudden that becomes even more difficult to talk about it. And even things like, that outgoing, gregarious sort of personality becomes this mask that you get really good at wearing when you're in front of people, because that's what people respond to. Because
that's what they expect.
And that just beats you up even more, because all of a sudden now you're living this lie to the masses that you have to kind of keep up. And that's going to eat you up and eat you up and eat you up and eat you up. Yeah. And then it just gets worse. But medication as well. I mean, the meds that I've been on. So I have had mental health issues for as long as I can remember now. And like, we now know that it's been diagnosed bipolar and severe anxiety. So I was diagnosed with bipolar 3 days before regionals last year. That's the reason I was going to pull out. I was like, this is fucked. I was told I have to go on medication.
Wow.
And so I started that medication cycle, which I'm not on anything at the moment, because it was just, stuff fucks you up, man.
Yeah.
Like I would take this stuff and it was just a walking zombie. I'd feel like I couldn't keep my eyes open. I just pull over my car once driving home from there. I came into the gym and I couldn't stay awake. And my business partner every time was like, you just need to go home. Like, you're fucked. So I left and I had to pull over, and I was living in Glebe, and this gym here is so it's like a less than 10-minute drive. I had to pull over on the way home because I could not keep my eyes open. And that was a point in time where I was like, this isn't helping. This is just making it worse, because now I can't fucking function. So but that's the thing, like, you kind of, medication is seen as, well, you go on the meds because that's a way to deal with it, because society hasn't quite accepted, a group of guys sitting down in a room and just being like, oh yeah, like if someone's got, heaven forbid that I compare this to anything terrible, but if someone's got a broken arm and their arm hurts, and you wouldn't say to that person, hey man, can you carry this huge box of this box of bricks for me?
Definitely.
You just wouldn't even do it. And if they wanted to sit down like, fuck, my arm is so sore, you're like, dude,
I wouldn't be carrying a fucking box of bricks
you
for
have
anyone.
a broken arm.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that
yeah.
sucks. Like, it's you have that injury.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not seen like that anymore. Like, I even have a very close friend of mine when I was like talking to at one point in time, and like I was just talking about stuff, and he said, I was like, and he still is a very close friend of mine. I just understand his perception. He said, I don't believe that mental health is a real thing. I think it's all in your head. I think that it's something that you can be diagnosed with, but I think you can just get over it. And I was like, fuck, like, how rough is that when this is one of my like, really close friends is point blank telling me that they think that the shit that's going on inside my head doesn't actually exist. Yeah. It's just my own doing.
It's the whole thing.
And I was like, holy fuck, man. Like, that's still the prevailing sort of sentiment for the majority of guys out there.
It's just me.
Oh, you're depressed, are you? Oh, have a beer, mate. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Have a laugh.
Come on.
Have a laugh.
I don't think it's that bad. And like, this guy, like,
it's definitely getting better, but it's still
so far from where it could be, where it's just kind of accepted that it's the same as if, You've got someone that's, a diabetic and needs to take insulin. That doesn't change them as a person. They just have to do that. If you've got someone that has a mental health issue and they might need a little bit of them time, or they might have a few quirks that they've got to kind of deal with and that sort of thing, but that's just normal. And it's something that you can be open and speak about. And that's where I think that society really needs to have that huge cultural shift, because without it, we're just going to keep going 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
And I guess it's like, this is a very general thing to say, but I will say it anyway. I guess it's like every person's, like Bill just said before, all of our anxieties are obviously very different to each other. But it's that having that understanding that anxiety is still anxiety. If you're freaking out about something, you're in the same boat as me, you're in the same boat as you.
Exactly right.
It's just like, what do we do? What's the next what's the next step forward? Definitely.
Interesting. All right.
Now, that was a tangent.
Yeah, that's right. So how was your training going anyway?
But anyway, so all that said, now training is becoming an enjoyable thing for me again, which is brilliant, because it means I'm not going out and sinking piss like a madman all the time and, whatever, chasing skirt. Like, I'm happy training.
Which
again.
are all still
That's good to hear, man.
good parts of a
I still
well-rounded
do go
life.
out.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I still do go out and sink piss like a madman from time to time.
More than adequate.
I have a party this weekend. I had a party last week. It was great. But at the same time now, it's less of a means of escape, which is a very dangerous way to be viewing things like binge drinking and partying.
Yeah, for sure.
When that's kind of your way of switching off, that becomes
it's a healthy
Addiction
pastime.
is used as an escape, and whatever that is, it can be beer, it can be exercise, it can be detrimental. Shall we do some GBS?
Let's do it, mate.
Alrighty. So
these are those
segments, mate. So something good, something bad, and then something sciencey. What did I write for the good? Oh, here we go. Okay. The Cavs. Are you an NBA man?
Mate, to be completely honest with you, I'm not.
Okay.
There's very few sports that I watch. To be completely fair, I love the rugby and I watch the surfing, and that's probably about it.
Well, that's okay, because I haven't really written a whole lot here. I just brought the Cavs up. I'll flick it over. This is a fucking bizarre tangent, but I really want to hit the nail on the head on this one. So I'll give you some facts, and then I'll ask my question. The Cavs were the first team to rally from a 3-1 deficit to win the NBA Finals. That is true, Doc.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. Both Kyrie Irving and LeBron James join an esteemed group of becoming the third and fourth players to win a final at their originally drafted club out of 33 past players. That is correct.
I assume so, mate.
That's good.
If you've done the
Correct,
research.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Correct.
Now, my question is, you know how those fuckers call themselves world champions?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's because
let's be honest,
they're
here,
arrogant
if any
Americans.
other basketball team
It's
played
true.
them, they
Look,
probably beat them.
look, theoretically, they're world champions. Theoretically.
But you're also missing the point that America is the world to Americans.
That is true. That is very true, yeah.
It's America and then a bunch of other stuff floating around in the American Ocean.
Yeah. To all our American listeners, we don't
I
agree
love
with that at
America.
all.
I spend most of the time. I spend a great deal of time in America. I do love America.
We love you guys. We love you.
Piss. Australian humour.
Can't get shot as soon as he gets to
man.
America.
I'm going to get off the plane and there's just going to be people standing there. I have enough issues getting through customs with the name Khan and an Arabic tattoo on my neck. Now, where are you from, sir? Australia. You've been from Pakistan, aren't you? Like,
What about
Pakistan?
Yeah.
What about my mate? One of my mates asked me once, Khan, where I was from in Australia, and no, it started with me asking him where he was from in the States. He was from Maine, which is like upstate New York.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
pretty
Close
much
to Canada, isn't it?
I can pretty much point the rough region of the states where Maine is.
Yeah.
I've never been there, but and he asked me. He came back at me. He's like, "And where are you from, Bill? Whereabouts in Australia are you from?" I said, "I'm from Melbourne, actually." And he goes, "Melbourne? Is that like Sydney?"
Is that kind of just not as good?
Yes, it is.
Hey, hang on a second, mate.
What the
I thought that one was going to slide through.
Yeah, that's right. No, we'll give it to you. Alrighty. The bad. Texan woman speaks like Mary Poppins after operation to fix her overbite. Born and bred Texan Lisa Alabama. Oh, I've
Is that
definitely got
her
that
real
wrong.
name, mate?
Born and bred Texan
Yeah, this
Lisa
sounds like a
Alabama.
made-up story that you're
Yeah,
trying to
that's
tell
right.
us now to sound
Mary
cool.
Poppins. Okay, so apparently this chick 6 months ago was a mum of three. She underwent surgery to correct an overbite, and when she woke up from anaesthesia, the Texan drawl was gone, and it was replaced with a British accent. It's
Well,
pretty
I'm calling
strange.
bullshit straight away.
Yeah, that's right.
That didn't happen.
Well, here we
She
go.
just likes Mary Poppins.
Yeah,
and now
just loves it.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. The operation left the 33-year-old Rosenberg native suffering a rare neurological disorder medics say has affected less than 100 people worldwide in the last 100 years. She said, quote unquote, people who don't know me, they're like, hey, hang on, I'll get the accent right. People who don't know me, they're like, hey,
she doesn't speak like that
where
now.
are you from? Oh, yeah. People who don't know me, they're like, where are you from? Lisa said, oh, just a spoonful of sugar. So my question to you guys was, if you could have anyone's voice in the world, who would it be and why? Now, mine's Morgan Freeman.
Oh, fuck you. I was just
Can
about to say that.
you do a Morgan Freeman
That's a
impersonation?
good voice.
Do not the great Morgan Freeman impersonation. Like,
Look at that couch over there.
I wish I could say that the Monopoly man thought the good fight. The sisters left him alone.
Sounds a little less black.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If I
Sounds
could
like
have
he's got
anyone's voice-
a cold of some
Oh
sort.
no! Do you know what? Here's why. I would have John Legends, so I could just serenade chicks with my. I mean, can you imagine that if you just walked into a room and you could sing like John Legend? I was like, oh, you're like kind of cute. What do you want to do? Like, oh my god, hand me off as quick as you can. You wouldn't even have to buy. You would never buy another drink in your life.
So true.
You could sing the Mary Had a Little Lamb if you sounded like John Legend, and that girl is going home with you.
Yeah.
I reckon I'd take a nice Jamaican accent. You know the dude, from like
Pointless.
cool Runnings? You know,
What?
You know, like,
Alright, well, we'll
what
let
about, you know the scene in Cool Runnings where they stack and then the guy, I don't know which character, what his character name was, but when he goes, hey, Sanka, you dead, man. You know that guy? I'll be that guy.
That's good.
I'll be that guy.
But you kind of already were that guy.
I was going to say, you just put that
Jamaican
voice
voices
on.
are cool as fuck.
Just talk like that. From Mary Poppins lady
Yeah,
was
man,
able to do it.
I can talk like that.
What you can do is go in for like break your arm on purpose. Go in to get your surgery on your arm and just come like, this weird disease happened to this woman. And
I don't know what's going on,
Can you do the Jamaican for
I
me?
talk like this.
Can you fix my arm and do the Jamaican?
Ganja. Hey, you know all about deodorant. All right. Final one. The science. China unveils the fastest supercomputer in the world. So, the crown for the fastest supercomputer remains in China, with Sunway Tahihu Light, I believe that's a regional dialect, taking the top spot from Tahini 2. The new system is able to do almost 3 times more operations per second. So this got me thinking. There are a fair few people out there that aren't in relationships and obviously have to look towards other means to satisfy themselves. With a supercomputer like this, I'm just wondering whether or not it could prove to be a little less helpful in the long run, if you get what I'm alluding to, Bill. They're going to look up tons of porn with a really fast computer.
I didn't know where you were going.
Or a
I
good
think
thing?
the computer. I mean, let's
I
be
was
honest
gonna
here.
fall
We're
in
all
love with the
three
computer.
guys sitting in a room. Like,
That's right.
you can
I'm looking
watch
at it now.
porn now,
Yeah,
and it's
right.
at a reasonable speed.
Mate,
Like, I
I'll
have
watch
no
porn.
issues.
I'll watch porn at fucking three pixels.
Yeah.
I'll watch all.
I remember the very first. You know
Look
what?
at that beige colour.
I remember that this is the funniest. This is a great segue. A great little tangent. I remember at high school, like the first one of all of our mates that got a color picture phone.
Yeah.
And there was this one website that you could look at like phone porn on like these old fucking, I don't even know what phone it was. And we used to take turns borrowing this fucking phone. And I got the phone for the next couple of nights. Fuck yeah, mum, dad, lock the door, I'm out. But it was that good, and it was this pixelated, like wasn't even moving.
I'm double working.
Like, oh, you got that phone again this week?
That's
Come
so
on.
good.
But yeah, and I was like, oh man, I remember that back in the day. You made it work.
Yeah. So that was your
So
first,
I don't think
first
it
ever-
matters at all.
Hey,
I don't
what
think
was
this
the-
is going to change.
This is gonna be better.
If you're already watching a shit ton of porn, you're already going to watch a shit ton of porn.
I was about to go to a segue of what was your first experience like masturbating, but I think we should fucking try.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, look,
should we
it's a
try and
clip
get back
some
on
topics on this conversation. I'm a very open person. I'm not going to speak about that.
Yeah, that's right. I'm open, but I'm not physically that open.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track.
Sounds
That's
good.
it, eh? That's it for the good, the bad,
That
the science.
is the GBS, my friend. Enjoy it.
Yeah, it's good.
Excellent.
Interesting.
Variance.
What a
Yeah,
variance.
just- okay, we
CrossFit
went
is all
from-
about variance. Alrighty, guys. That was part 1 of Mr. Khan Porter. Really, really interesting, and really hoping you guys tune in for part 2 because it's going to be just as interesting, if not more interesting. Guys, just quickly want to go through some stuff that you can do to help the show. Please click the subscribe button when you listen to this on your podcast app on the iPhones or the Androids. Go on to the website, guys. If you have anything you missed and you wanted to find out more, click onto the show notes page. That'll help you with specifics and gives you the time of when it occurred up in the show itself. While you're there, guys, jump on the mailing list. Keep up to date with what myself and Doco are up to, plus anything Adventure Fit related. That is including travel and radio. And always, guys, we are sponsored by Audible. Head to audibletrial.com/ADVF radio to get a 1 book credit a month. And yeah, guys, that's cool. Also, Mount Everest is coming up, team. 15 days tracking up to the base camp. That'll be awesome. As Bill said in the intro, guys, old mate Macca Runnels jumping off of that one, so that'll be good. You can meet the man, you can meet the Greek god. Alrighty, guys, listening for part 2 coming your way. Boom.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.